He's Howard Eibach, a former copywriter and creative director and the author of 2 books on the creative brief.
And he's Henry Gomez, an ad agency strategist with 29 years of experience. Together, Henry and I are the Brief Brothers. We love talking about creative briefs, briefing, and advertising. Henry, we're back with another episode, and guess what? I think we're going to start a series. I don't know how many episodes we'll do on this series, but it was inspired by my appearance recently on Giles Edwards' Call to Action podcast. At the beginning of each interview, he puts the people in the hot seat, and today it was me, through a series of lightning round questions. And all he asks of the guest is to pick one of two series of words, phrases, or quotes without expanding on the answer. So one of the questions was, which is more important, the creative brief's objective or the creative brief's target audience? I thought, okay, well, I had an answer, but I think that's an interesting topic for us to discuss, and we can spend a little bit more time without going overboard. So today we're going to do that very same topic, and we'll see how many other elements of the brief we can dissect in future episodes on this series. We'll call it our own, the Brief Brothers Lightning Round. So today we'll do objective and target audience. I'm going to take objective, and you're going to take target audience. And we didn't discuss who's going to start first, so I guess I'll go.
Yes.
Okay. So when I was talking to Giles today, that was the question he put to me, and I said objective. And the reason that I think objective is more important than target audience, and let me be clear, I'm not saying target audience is not important, but this is a great way to discuss the importance of each of these topics. So I think an objective is critical because you need to have some kind of solid direction. And one of the biggest mistakes I see in a lot of briefs, and I'll bet you'll agree with me on this one, is that so many briefs have kind of a default objective, which is build awareness, which just makes my skin crawl when I see it because one, it reveals a lack of creative thinking, and two, laziness. I want to know something more, and that's why I've fallen into this love affair with verbs. One of those parts of speech that we don't think about when we write a brief, but the best brief writers pay attention to which verbs they choose to, especially here on what the objective is, to what? Not just to build, but to excite, to advocate, to seduce, to romance. When you think about those kinds of verbs, you're giving creatives a clearer direction of where they need to go with the creative brief. So right there, I think, and there are many other reasons that we can discuss on why the objective is so important, but that's probably my first one.
Well, I agree with you in a sense. I'm going to take the other side of this argument for the purpose of entertainment. But I tend to agree with you on the objective. I think, but in favor of the target audience. One of the things that I do when I have taught my little workshop on brief writing is that I mention like what the purpose of a brief is. And I talk about target audience in the context of, I say, what if we're trying to we're trying to coach somebody to invite somebody else to go to prom. So we're talking about high school seniors. And then I say, what if the person asking is the high school quarterback? What if the person asking is a band geek? What if the person asking is a goth? And then the other side is, what is the recipient of the invitation? And so there's some archetypes there that it's just a way in the workshop to teach like about archetypes. But the point is the message could be very, very different, right? How you shape the creative message when you're asking a shy and introverted person, you're not going to want to serenade them in the hallway of the high school with a guitar, embarrassing them, right? Like you might want to do it with a note that you slip under her desk or something like that. So I think that the mindset of the target audience becomes very critical to the communication. It informs the tone, it informs what channel we might be talking to them in, even the timing. The objective tells you what you want to do, but the audience tells you how you're going to get there. So I, in arguing in favor of the audience, those are the points that I make. I think it's strategy without that target audience component is basically a to-do list.
And I think we can both agree, Henry, that we're not saying one is more important than the other, because we each could argue on behalf of the point we didn't make. But I think as an exercise in just quick thinking and picking one and articulating why it's important, I think will help other brief writers who are struggling with these parts of the document. As I've said many times before in this podcast, the vast majority of people that I train are marketers, and marketers have a bazillion other things that they're responsible for besides a brief. Whereas you have the luxury of doing so many things that are all related to the brief. So you're thinking about it a lot more. Marketers need that kind of assistance to remind them how important is the target audience, how important is that objective, and the things they can do to make both better.
I have a closing thought, and I'm going to argue against my position, but just I think that there's also the question of in real life what happens, right? And in real life, target audiences usually don't change that much from assignment to assignment, right? So we become intimately familiar with a client's target audience, or their audience segments and so forth. But each assignment potentially has a different objective. So that's an argument in favor of objective. A lot of times the people that you're writing this brief for are already kind of intimately familiar with the target audience.
And I'll do the same thing. I will take your position and say one of the reasons that I think knowing the target audience is critical is because we have more opportunities to fine tune who it is that we're talking to. You like to say that when you draw a word picture of the target audience, you do it so that the creatives can slip it on like a costume and see the world through their eyes, which requires empathy. That can be evolving. So that's an argument in favor of the target audience as being more important than the objective.
Good
So
stuff, Howard.
good stuff, Henry.
He's Howard Eibach.
And he's Henry Gomez, and together we're the Brief Brothers. Till next time, bye bye.